Africa tour as Washington aims to reset relations with the continent. We'll be getting what the implications of this visit will be and the fallout from that. Also this afternoon, days after some NDC MPs broke ranks to approve new ministers by Akufo-Addo, the party continues to face uphill task of convincing the rank and file and other Ghanaians it is committed to keeping government on its toes. And on the foreign front, at least 19 refugees and migrants from sub-Saharan Africa drown off the coast of Tunisia. We appreciate that you could join us from wherever you are. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook, also on DSTV channel 279. Let's begin from here. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is beginning a three-nation tour of Africa with Ghana as her first port of call. The trip is aimed at building stronger U.S. ties with the continent and has seldom received the positive attention it deserves. The U.S. Vice President will meet President Akufo-Addo, Tanzania's President Samia Hassan, and Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema before ending her tour on April 2. While in Ghana, Kamala Harris will visit a local recording studio in Accra and meet with young people in the creative industry. She is also expected to give a major speech to an audience of young people sometime on Tuesday, March 28. My colleague Judith Awache Tando is at the Kotoka International Airport, where Kamala is expected to arrive in the next few hours. She's joining us via Zoom. Judith, thank you for joining us. What do we know about the arrangements for Kamala's arrival?
Right, Kamala, and so we are still awaiting the arrival of the U.S. Vice President as well as the second gentleman, Douglas Emhoff. We're told that their plane is around Kaswa currently, and so we are expecting her to reach here in about 15 minutes. She would have reached here at the Kotoka International Airport, where we're told that her itinerary would include a series of events that she would be attending, including a meeting at Cape Coast, where she would be meeting the chiefs, as well as visiting the castle, of course, to know how slave trade was in the past. Of course, this is a very emotional moment for her. And we should also note that this is the first time a vice president of the United States of America is actually stepping on the soil of Africa in that capacity. And so this is also part of their, what they want to do to break biases. Yes, you can see that there's heavy police presence right here at the Kotoka International Airport. A lot of people are here waiting for the arrival of the U.S. Vice President. And so you can see the car parked as well, waiting for her. The president has still not arrived as well, but we're hoping for him to arrive in a few minutes. Probably he's also sitting in one of the cars waiting for her arrival. You can see the cultural troupe here. They are ready for her to welcome her. You can see some children as well. They are waving their Ghana flags. They are very much excited because this is, of course, the first time the U.S. Vice President is visiting Ghana. So it's a great moment for these kids. And yes, we're told that she'll be visiting a lot of youth and be speaking to them as well. And so everything here is set for the arrival of the Vice President of the United States of America. Yes, security is massive, massive security. Of course, this is the United States of America. And so everything is being checked and double checked. And the media is also ready as well. So this is the situation currently at the Kotoka International Airport. We're hoping that in about 15 minutes, the Vice President would have arrived, and we'll be giving you more details on that.
Thank you, Judith Awache Tando, my colleague from the VIP lounge of the Kotoka International Airport. Let's head to Zoom now. Dr. Hayford Insia is an assistant professor at University of Utah. He's joining us from his base. Thank you for joining us, Doc. We know China and Russia have been intensifying their cooperation in Africa in the last few years. Has the United States lost out on all of this and now trying to make inroads?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Africa is considered as the continent that is shaping the future, right? So Africa has a very, very key geopolitical, Africa has become a key geopolitical player. So every country, the powers of the world, they are all trying to strengthen their ties with their African partners based on the principle of mutual respect, shared interest, and value. So the US has been doing that already for many years, but it looks like China and Russia, they've intensified their interest in Africa, and the US has realized the need to also further intensify their relationship with African countries because of the role that Africa right now plays in the world as a whole.
And on the basis of that, Ghana, we know, is part of a non-aligned movement, but in the last few months, President Akufo-Addo's comments regarding the Russian Wagner forces in Burkina Faso, for example, infuriated Moscow. How do we balance the relations to ensure the interests are not lost?
You know, in building our relationship with China, Russia, or the United States doesn't mean we should surrender our sovereignty as Africans. So as African leaders, based on that principle of mutual respect, interest, and value, if this kind of partnership that we are building with these Western world or the superpowers, if we may call them, if it's something that will not, or if there's any aspect of it that doesn't benefit us, we have every right to speak out. And speaking out doesn't mean we are straining the relationship. Because when it comes to building relationship in this geopolitical world, we all should be able to speak out on the basis of our values, on the basis of our interests, on the basis of our sovereignty. We shouldn't just keep quiet because of probably what the Western world will give to us. And there's even no free lunch. Whatever they are giving to us, they are giving it to us for a reason. So we shouldn't just keep quiet. We should be able to speak out.
We know the the U.S. Secretary of State was here in Africa. Now we have the Vice President herself also coming to Africa. Some have said this is a charm offensive just to get Africa back into the fold of America. Is this something you ascribe to?
Africa has always been in the fold of America. Africa has always been there. Like I said earlier on, China and Russia are now intensifying their position in Africa. And US, knowing the role China and Russia can play, they are also trying to look for better ways to foster that kind of economic engagement they already have with Africa, and also reinforce the US-Africa commitment to democracy and human rights. So these are, and even promote food security, advance peace and security. US is very, very interested about when it comes to using Africa as one of the bases to promote their food security and also advance the peace and security of the world.
Before I let you go, Doc, a very touchy subject in Ghana in the last few months has to do with the LGBTQI conversations, which has dominated discussions in the media and outside the media. Beyond the trade and economic conversations that is expected to happen when Kamala arrives in Ghana, would it be your expectation that this will be something she will be interested in touching on?
Well, for me, even if she's interested in touching on these LGBT issues, you know, Africa has many challenges to deal with for us to be paying too much attention to these LGBT issues. At the moment, we are looking at how we'll be able to strengthen ourselves in terms of health, the economic challenges that we have. These are issues that borders on the development of our country. Not LGBT will not develop our country. So even if they are interested in that, I don't think it should be one of the focus of African countries, or it should be the focus of Ghana. Now we are looking at how we can respond to the climate crisis. We want to look at how we can amplify our diaspora ties to the United States. These are the things that we are looking for. How we can work collaboratively to strengthen the regional and the global health that we are being, global health situations that we are being entangled in. And knowing the position of China and then the US, China and Russia, I don't think this visit by the president will have a lot to do with LGBT. They are looking at security, economic, migration, impact, COVID. These are the areas that I believe strongly the vice president will pay more attention to.
Grateful you could join us from your base in Utah. Dr. Hayford Insia, Assistant Professor, University of Utah, they're joining us live. Thank you for your time. Now, the opposition NDC is facing an uphill task of convincing its ranking file that it is still committed to keeping government on its toes after Friday's overwhelming vote to approve President Akufo-Addo's ministerial nominees. Some MPs have incurred the wrath of party members and Ghanaians over what has been described as betrayal of a party in the manner some MPs crossed carpets to approve their ministers. Cape Coast South MP, for example, Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, told TV3 some NDC MPs were in fact bribed to vote against the party's decision. In the last few hours, the party has been responding to the developments. In a statement signed by General Secretary Fifi Kwete, the NDC condemned the conduct of its MPs, describing it as a betrayal of a will of a party and a massive stab in the back of the Ghanaian people. The party says despite the outcome of a vote, it remains committed to its call for President Akufo-Addo to downsize his bloated government amidst the economic crisis. The statement continues to say the NDC as an entity bears no liability for the deviant action of a few self-seeking members of parliament who betrayed the collective cause of a party and the nation. Let's still stay in the NDC because my colleague Noble Crosby Annan has more on the aftermath of Friday's voting in this report. And we'll be bringing that report to you. We know that from many quarters, including the MPs, they have been speaking against the conduct of their colleagues who went against the party's decision to vote and approve the ministers. Here is Noble's report.
Disappointment, sabotage, parochial interest. These words have been some of the visible in the reaction to a vote in Parliament that past ministers put forward by President Akufo-Addo despite the intense effort by the National Democratic Congress to stall it. When key ministers at the Trade Ministry and Agriculture left their roles to pursue their separate presidential ambitions, the National Democratic Congress saw their moment to highlight a point they have been making for years, that the size of government was too big. For them, this was the time to act to reduce it. So the NDC issued an order to its MPs that none of the ministers nominated to fill roles at the Trade, Agriculture and Chieftaincy Ministry should be approved. The new General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Kwete, was in no doubt that the MPs would tell the party line. Not for the first time. The party didn't have their way after the disaffection from previous happenings, according to many observers, triggered a change in parliamentary leadership of the NDC. The change, according to Fifi Kwete, was to reposition and strengthen the party in Parliament.
The leadership of the NDC is concerned about the well-being of the party, and that well-being of the party continues to be our major drive, and we will never relent on our effort to make sure that the party remains supreme, and the well-being and the interests of the millions of our supporters, and the well-being of Ghana, for that matter, continue to be secure.
Yet, in the aftermath of the vote on the ministers, there is a sense, at least from one MP, that it did the opposite. Mutala Mohammed says timing for change in minority leadership was wrong. He's asking what was the basis of changing our parliamentary leadership. It's obvious from the reaction of NDC MPs on social media that the latest episode of the ministers has caused divisions and anger within the party, and none epitomizes that than MP for Cape Coast South, Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, who has made strong claims against the members who went against the party stance.
It was a clear undermining of Honorable Atufoson's leadership as a punishment to the party, and number two is to do with greed.
Greed?
Yes, on the part of some of our MPs.
NDC MPs?
NDC MPs, yes. There are some people who don't see the collective interests of what we are trying to achieve as a party, and that they are more interested in themselves making money as quick as they can.
So what you're saying is that some NDC MPs were bribed, they took money?
Absolutely, no doubt.
But for Director of Communications at the NPP, Richard Ahiagba, the the approval of the ministerial nominees despite the initial threat of the minority represent giant steps in consolidating the country's democracy.
I think yesterday was a good day for democracy, to the extent that people would vote their conscience. What really carried the day yesterday was people realizing that there is a need to make our democracy work.
Describing the two sides of the House as monumental disappointments, senior lecturer at the Political Science Department at the University of Ghana, Professor Ransford Jampos advised NDC MPs to stop the bitterness that was occasioned by the previous minority leaders and support the new leadership.
It is politically smart on their part for them to cut such bitterness and to offer sincere support to the new leadership. So those who are being led or influenced by bitterness to attempt to sabotage the current minority leadership must know that they would need the same minority leadership, their support, in their quest to climb higher the ladder of political progression tomorrow. Both the minority side and majority side are a monumental disappointment to our quest to promote Parliament's role or to strengthen Parliament's role as a countervailing authority to the powers of the executive.
Lawyer and political commentator Martin Pigbo is in no doubt the MPs who failed to see reason in the NDC argument and send a message to President Kufuor have let the country down.
Probity. So we need to have that honesty. We need to have integrity. We need to what? Protect the public purse. So what better way can the MPs ensure the ideals of this constitution than by voting against the appointment? Because now it's like we are also weak. We are cowards. We're just sitting there and Kufuor alone is just scaring us, throwing himself around, and we are just quiet because it's so despicable.
But can the NDC and its leadership in Parliament bounce back after this monumental backstabbing? Minority Leader Kaisla Tuforsing thinks so, saying, "I believe we can still work together to achieve our goals." For that to happen, former President John Dramani Mahama is in no doubt one important thing must happen. He says those responsible for this betrayal must do some serious soul-searching and learn to place national interest over personal interest. From approval of ministers in the past, the debate over whether to pass the e-levy, the fate of Ken Ofori-Atta as finance minister, and now the approval of a new set of ministers, it is obvious that even in an incredibly tight parliament, what the ruling government wants, the ruling government gets.
And in the last few minutes, the Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris, has just touched down to a crowd of waving flags at the Kotoka International Airport. She will begin that visit to Africa, expected to meet President Kufuor, the President of Tanzania and Zambia, on her Africa tour. Away from that, from the tramadol crisis which swept across the nation and now to some health professionals succumbing to their own addictions, recent reports have shown the disturbing truth of prescription drug abuse as inside health facilities by the very people who are responsible for their safekeeping. My colleague Emmanuel Samani in this report highlights the reality of drug addiction in the medical profession.
I met a guy too who is addicted to Petidin. He has to be, before you see the guy mingling normal with others, he has to take Petidin before.
When I take it, I get high. And I'm able to sleep. But I sleep for a while. Once the medication wears off, you are up again. That's the feeling about it. And you know, usually I start with one. It got to a time I had to take more, double up the dosage to get the same high I needed.
Monica was a shining star in the nursing profession. For over 20 years, she was the one midwife everyone looked up to. After the loss of her mother, she felt all alone.
I became addicted to Petidin. That was 3 years ago. But before then, I went through a lot of different things. I had my first surgery. And then the same year, I lost my mother.
With pressure also mounting from work coupled with abdominal pain, she started self-medicating with pethidine to cope with her stress. Soon, she used the cover of her nursing profession to purchase more pethidine without prescription.
Pethidine is expensive. And once you have money and you can buy, people sell it to you without necessarily having the prescription signed by a doctor to buy. So that's how I was getting my pethidine. I go to pharmacists and I get it. Not within the hospital environment, no. Not where I work. I just go to any pharmacy and I get it.
Her colleagues soon suspected her of drug addiction and reported her to high authorities.
They actually went to my boss and told my boss about it. So she called me and suggested rehab. But at the time she suggested, I didn't think I was addicted, so I refused.
After months of being addicted to pethidine, she made a bold decision after contemplating suicide to seek help.
It took me 1 year to decide that I was really addicted to pethidine, and even that, I realized I couldn't take care of myself. I had lost so much weight. And then on my birthday, I nearly hanged myself in my room. And the only thing that changed the suicidal thoughts was the fact that I thought of my son lying in the next room. That's the only thing that made me seek help.
Pethidine is an opioid pain relief medicine used for various conditions. Due to the fast-acting effects of pethidine, patients can experience feelings of euphoria. The euphoric side effects increase the addiction potential of the medication. Pethidine is not recommended for patients with chronic pain. Pethidine is considered highly addictive, and so it is not prescribed on an ongoing basis or the treatment of persistent pain in chronic conditions. President of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Perpetual Ofori, was deeply saddened by Monica's story.
So it's been there like forever. When I was in training, in the 90s, we knew that there were doctors that were addicted to pethidine. There were nurses that were addicted to pethidine. I have not used it before, so I don't know what they get from it when they take it. But these are medical drugs that are used for specific things in terms of the care we give to our patients.
She says there are an unknown number of nurses who struggle with addiction, with some losing their lives as a result.
In quite recent times, we've lost a couple of nurses who, of course, were identified to be using them, but they go through some kind of rehab, they go back, they are taking it, and suicides and death that cannot be explained.
She wants improved counseling and support systems for health workers who suffer from substance abuse.
We will have to enhance our education, our sensitization, more to do with early identification of such abuse and finding ways and means to help these individuals through psychological support.
Studies have found healthcare workers who steal drugs tamper with medication, leaving them contaminated. A study in the US by Mayo Clinic found more than 28,000 hospital patients were put at risk of contracting hepatitis C over a 10-year period because of this kind of drug diversion. Perpetual says management of various health facilities should detect and report drug thefts. Drug disappearances have been uncovered in hospitals across the nation. This has got several healthcare experts worried. Doctors, nurses, and other healthcare workers are suspected of misusing and diverting higher-risk medications from the in-hospital supply, leaving many hospitals ill-equipped to combat the problem. But how can one overcome such addictions? Harriet, a drug addict counselor, has been helping hundreds of addicts overcome their addiction.
Drug addiction is with us. It's in every aspect of our lives, particularly among health workers. it is not their fault that they are addicted. Addiction is a disease. If we can come together and support our brothers and sisters who come out to say, you know what, I am addicted to this and this and that. And usually with health workers, you shouldn't just think of the pharmaceuticals. That is not the only drug that they could be addicted to. Some health professionals come and then you realize that it is alcohol. Some come and it is cigarettes. They are health professionals, and once they find themselves in this space, we should be able to support them.
She explains why individuals get into the use of drugs in the first place.
For her, it was just a grieving process. For others, just stress from daily living, just the stress. Others also fun, just want to have fun, and so then it begins from there. And others, curiosity, especially with the youth. I'm just curious about this, and so I start. And before you realize, you are becoming addicted to whatever it is you were using.
Monica has undergone rehabilitation for 4 months and has since been drug-free, and continues her nursing profession with a Catholic facility.
Stigma and fear are preventing many healthcare workers from seeking help for addiction before it's too late for both themselves and their patients. Now, desperate to hide their illness, healthcare workers are suffering in silence, and the lives of those who they take care of are at risk. This is according to experts we interviewed here in Accra. They say the fear of being fired or arrested for drug abuse is preventing addiction help from being sought in a timely fashion, leading to tragedy for many.
I think addiction is everywhere, in all sectors, everywhere addiction is there. But you see, because of the stigmatization, people are not ready to come out and seek help. Not only that, by the time you become addicted, you don't have money to even fend for yourself, let alone say, okay, now I'm ready, I need this help. Where do you get the money to pay for the rehabilitation? That is the problem.
It is our duty to open the conversation and provide support to those who are suffering in silence. We must break the stigma associated with addiction and work to provide the help and compassion that all individuals deserve. Emmanuel Samani, TV3 News, Pantang, Accra.
We'll take you now back to the Kotoka International Airport, where U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has touched down. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and his wife, Samira Bawumia, we understand, are at the airport to receive the U.S. Vice President. So she begins a raft of activities scheduled for the day. And we understand the chopper arrived a few minutes ago from the United States and will be crossing over to speak to Judith, our trade tender, who has been stationed at the VIP lounge of the airport all morning to give us the latest as we see a horde of security officials plus students waving Ghana flags to welcome the U.S. Vice President. We understand she is on an African tour to visit Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia. She's expected to engage with presidents of these three countries on the way forward for U.S.-Africa relations. Some of the issues that are going to be topical when she arrives and begins those conversations will touch on young people, also migration, climate change, and others. As and when we're able to get through to Judith, our trade tender, we will be engaging her on the next steps for Kamala Harris as she has arrived here in Ghana. Now, lack of canoes for island school teachers is negatively impacting educational activities on island schools in the Adan East District. Joseph Armstrong Gold Alogbe visited some island communities in the Adan East area and came through with this report.
Fishing is the main source of livelihood for inhabitants of island communities in the Adan East District of the Greater Accra region. There is high literacy rate here. Children are exploited and used as cheap labor in fishing. Despite efforts put in by some professional teachers to help the children, several challenges are making it difficult for effective academic work. These include the lack of boats to transport teachers from inland areas where they live and lack of adequate school infrastructure. The March 18 canoe disaster at Azania and Azinakpe in the Adan East District of the Greater Accra region has exposed how some teachers on the island schools risk their lives daily before reaching their schools. The teachers told the news team about safety issues and how some of the boats they travel in leak. They also told of experiences where at times boats ran out of fuel in the middle of the journey. Roslyn, a teacher at Pediatrokopi Basic School, one of the island schools in the Adan East District. She lives at Big Adan and crosses the Volta River daily to commute to school due to lack of teachers' bungalow close to the school. All commercial canoes had already left when she got to the riverside. Roslyn and her colleague teacher, Albert, and some pupils were left with no option than to paddle themselves to school. Unfortunately, it was a rainy morning, making it impossible for them to continue the journey.
Most of the times when you get here and then you miss the canoe with the machine, you only, if you miss the canoe with the machine, it means you are supposed to take the one with the paddle. So that's what we usually do. So it depends. When you are lucky for a canoe with a machine, you just board it. If it's not, you just have to pick the one with the paddle.
No, we don't risk crossing over. When we realize the storm and the windy is too high, we just stay or don't go at all.
This is what teachers that teaches here goes to every day. Unlike me wearing these life jackets, we are told that all the life jacket given to the teachers is not the right kind of life jacket they are supposed to be using. The next day, Roslyn managed to get to school joining a passenger canoe. She narrates some of her previous experiences traveling on the Volta River.
Let's say we were having a school boat that's conveying us to and fro daily. It wouldn't have been a challenge. But since we don't have, we have to wait for the passengers' boat. And these ones, most of their machines are faulty. And some boats are leaking and all that. It puts our lives in danger every single day. And we have to deal with all that to come to the school only because we love those kids and we want to impact some knowledge in them.
Other teachers shared similar sentiments.
Teachers not having their own accommodation on the island. Currently, some teachers are pairing with the nurses' bungalows that they have, which also comes with other challenges as well. There's no lighting system when you even want to teach an IT lesson and taking the children out.
When I was posted here, I heard the name Pediatrokopi. So I just googled it on my phone, right? Like Adan. So the scenery they didn't show me the riverside, as you know. So I came here, that was in January last year, to find my post. But when I came, I had to cross. My first time, I was really, really scared. Because I was imagining in my head, I don't know how to swim. And then I'm encountering this.
There is so much risk involved in crossing the river. Anything at all can happen. And I even have evidence of boats that leak. And you imagine what will happen if the whole boat is full of water. So for me, I think risk allowance is one of the major allowances I will personally go for.
Some pupils of the Pediatrokopi Basic School also expressed displeasure on the challenges their teachers are faced with.
The teachers don't have boats, their personal boats. So sometimes they are late. Even some of the students over bank, they will go and borrow canoe from other people before they brought it to school.
They need life jacket too, because crossing the river is very dangerous.
Later, a visit to the Adan East Educational Office confirmed the ordeal of the teachers.
They are actually suffering in many things, and it's our hope that somebody or through your medium will get a support so that they can feel comfortable there. Do they
have any risk allowance at all?
If they have, then it will be on paper. I've not heard any of them enjoying anything like that.
You think you are in charge of schools? You think it is right for them to be given risk allowance?
Yes, they should be given.
According to them, all efforts to get support from the district assembly has not been successful.
If they can help the schools with boats, because there are times when they get to the river bank and there is no boat, they have to come back. So we are pleading if they can support us so that we get boats, life jacket, and accommodation for our teachers on the island.
The district assembly denied receiving letters from the education service seeking for help.
GES saying they needed boats for each school. Unfortunately, from our records, we've not received a letter like that, indicating that GES is requesting for boats for each of the schools on the island. But if it is so, the assembly will look into it and will make necessary processes and see how best we can provide the boats for teachers who ply between the islands and Adan to be able to move freely.
The assembly added plans are underway to ensure the safety of teachers in island schools until the Ghana Education Service and Adan East District Assembly collaborate to ensure the welfare and safety of teachers and pupils who commute on the Vuta River on a daily basis. The teachers will continue to risk their lives whilst rendering their services to Mana Ghana.
Where are you running to?
Joseph Armstrong Gold reports there. It will take us into our first break. For the bulletin, we'll return with more stories. Please stay with us.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. Who will be careful M-Punch one?
Chesena me ankasa me period no say problems wom ntina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chesena nyana sam ketewa na me kwan point no mo hwe me modem no mo hwe bibia na so mo meduro me fire no ene ma won kra me enu foforo kwa na mkwan mu a eba head everything yourself
me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante ene ne ko end point o mama no nura ene ne ho idea watimi asori anante.
That's end point for you of Acrobato. Hello hey ohwehwe what che okay a free bra wo di end point what dance am me call you no me don't say man nkoye and person na my nyina and na magina sebema na me be fear for there the one nyina jaresa. You heard everything. I have secret. M-Punch is my secret. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. I'm free.
It's good to try something new every day. It's good when you get the rest you need because your family has got you. Frytol, you deserve a life of goodness. This advert is FDA.
We are on a mission promoting access to quality health and education through the power of our media space. Since 2014, we have made great impact. TV3 mission now drives Ghana's quest to break barriers and provide access to inclusive and quality girls' education, together with women's maternal health services. Our mission to address the needs of the socially excluded has won the admiration of many. Indeed, TV3 Mission gets you the results. Mission is live on TV3 News 360 every Saturday and Sunday. Supported by Star Ghana Foundation, with thanks to Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office.
Trying new things leads to learning. It makes us curious, independent, well-rounded individuals ready to experience everything life has to offer.
Aside rapping, I know a bit of marketing strategy.
Also, I'm a nurse.
But the talent I wish I had was for the visual arts.
You're so beautiful. This week on Talented Kids, we challenge the contestants to tap into their second talent, a talent that is different from what they have been displaying so far on the show.
You have a beautiful tone. All you need is a coach.
It's To avoid eviction, please dial star 713 star 13 hash or download the TV3 Reality app to vote. Talented kids, free to play.
Let's go! We zone. Can you hear this song? If you hear this song, you get a good song.
Talented Kids shows on TV3 every Sunday at 4 p.m.
Powered by Indomie. Sponsored by Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, Cowbell, Heaven Black Mosquito Coil and Insecticide Spray, Enapa Mackerel, Kiki Juice Drink, Flora Tissues, Top Choco, Coco Plus,
Deluxe Acrylic Paint.
You're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Now, TV3 5 months ago shared the story of a young boy who was presumed to be suffering from a mental disorder, but for the timely intervention of a mental health nurse, his abilities as a special child with a higher IQ would not have been identified. Today, little Jonathan is having a new lease of life, having been offered full scholarship to study at the Pribet Montessori School. Sarah Pencroff followed the story through and now reports.
3-year-old Jonathan Wallason now has a new home. Learners, facilitators and management of the Pribet Montessori School, where he would continue his education, have already given him a warm welcome.
Happy to see you, happy to meet you. Welcome, welcome, how do you do?
And his story is about to change for good. In December last year, TV3's story, which highlighted the condition of 3-year-old Jonathan Wallason, caught the attention of the public. He skipped lessons at crèche to attend higher classes, read books, and pronounce words he had never been taught, a behavior his teachers at the Avetile Methodist Basic School thought was weird and abnormal.
What is this?
Wait.
What is this?
That is.
What is this?
A friend.
Wow. What is this?
Everyone.
Jonathan Wallason, after undergoing assessment at the Department of Psychiatry at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, was diagnosed of ADHD, a clinical condition characterized by symptoms of inattention and or hyperactivity and or impulsivity in children.
He's neurodivergent. What it means is his brain is different. That's what makes him function differently. He is not abnormal. But people who are neurodivergent, we're talking about ADHD, autism spectrum, and other conditions, they have certain strengths and weaknesses. So for Jonathan specifically, we noticed that his expressive language skills is quite above average. That's why he's able to read quite fast than, a 3-year-old. But then we also realized from the neuropsychological assessment that he has poor comprehensive skills. So which means the thing he's reading, he may not fully understand what he's reading, which means that is what he will need help with.
Jonathan would require a well-structured educational system away from the village to enable him explore his potentials. And at Pribet Montessori School, Jonathan can get all the facilities to develop. The school has decided to award the clever little boy a scholarship package. CEO Cecilia Hughes Osafo is excited by Jonathan's new journey.
I was watching TV3 and I was really touched because I'm into education. So when I saw it, it dawned on me that the parents were saying they needed to come to relocate to Accra. And we also felt that this is a Montessori school. So why don't we seize the opportunity and extend that same facility for this little boy? And I discussed with the management, and they all agreed that it would be a very good idea to help Jonathan. This school is up to GHS 3, So for now, we want to take Jonathan and offer him that full scholarship till he completes the JHS 3. We saw that he had a big sister, and we felt that why don't we include the sister?
The school, which runs a preschool to JHS level curriculum, offers high standard tuition. Jonathan would not enjoy his new lease of life alone. His older sister, 5-year-old Lillian, is also a beneficiary of the scholarship package expected to commence next academic term.
We are much grateful, and God should bless and keep the institution as well as you, Mama. Thank you very much.
The two had earlier been enrolled on PEBICAPS, a comprehensive specialized digitized library platform by owners of the organization. A lot has changed since December last year, and the coming years for Jonathan and his elder sister look promising already. They now have a fresh lease of life.
To God be the glory. Freebirds Montessori School has come to the aid of Jonathan Wolasin to offer him full scholarship to study to the JHS level. This is to enable him explore his potentials to be what he needs to be in the future. He's excited about his new school, and we hope he gets the needed impact he requires. Sarah Apenkru, TV3 News, Accra.
And TV3 always gets results. Thank you to all of you who come through for us every time we bring up some of these stories. May God replenish everything you spend on some of these underprivileged children. Now, early reporting to health facilities by persons who show signs of tuberculosis aids in early detection and treatment of a disease. My colleague Christopher Marco caught up with a cured TB patient and comes through with the following report.
Tuberculosis, also known as TB, remains a major public health problem in Ghana, despite the progress made in combating the disease over the past years. According to the World Health Organization, TB is one of the top 10 causes of deaths. It is estimated that close to 30,000 people get affected by TB each day, with over 4,000 people losing their lives. The situation in Ghana is not too different, as about 125 people fall ill daily, with 30 losing their lives on a daily basis. Dramani Adam, a native of Pembi in the East Gonja municipality of the Savannah region, is a cured TB patient.
Actually, pneumonia.
I was first diagnosed of pneumonia, but later when I visited the hospital again, they said I had TB and that I should not worry, everything will be okay. He recounts how he nearly died from the disease. I was nearly at the point of death, but the medication I took from the hospital saved my life.
For hospital medicines.
For his wife, the early detection of the disease saved his husband's life.
I
thought of divorcing my husband when he started coughing and growing lame, but I was advised to stay and take care of him. Today, I'm happy he's fine and going about his normal duties. Speaking on the sidelines of a program to commemorate World TB Day in Salaga, Savannah Regional Disease Control Officer Thomas Suri appealed to Ghanaians to stop stigmatizing against TB patients.
Specifically, TB is curable. The only way you can ensure that the Savannah region is free of the disease, ensure that everybody that have experienced any signs and symptoms of the disease should report early to the health facility. So if you are being picked, you will put on a free treatment and you are surely going to be cured of the disease. The disease is curable. No one should be afraid of the disease. We should also stigmatize those who are having the disease, because there is not one way or their fault that they had the disease. And why it's curable, there's no need to be afraid of it or to stigmatize with someone who had the disease.
Now, Minister for Food or Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture in charge of crops, Yaw Frimpong Addo, says Ghana's efforts to increase food security is being hampered by lack of access to quality agro inputs, including fertilizers and seeds. He made this disclosure at the Alliance for a Green Revolution Africa Learning event in Accra.
Ghana is said to have lost over $4.5 billion over a 10-year period due to land degradation as a result of mining. The country thus have poor fertility status of about 65% and requires the combination of organic and inorganic fertilizer to meet the growing food needs. Senior Programs Officer at the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, Madame Aseta Diallo, is optimistic Ghana can achieve complete food security with the right farming inputs.
Recommendations include the fact that we need to work harder, we need to double down and making sure that farmers have access to improved quality seeds of diversified varieties close to them. They are using the right soil fertility management technologies, including the fertilizers, organic and inorganic fertilizers. They are making sure that the private sector is actively participating, and that has to do with the policy environment.
Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture in charge of crops, Yaw Frimpong Addo, said that Ghana is working towards improving the situation with domestic production of fertilizer and quality seeds to farmers.
You're also watching Midday Live from the News Hub here at Adisawe Kanda in Accra. If you stay with us after this break, Kelvin Owusu will bring us the latest in sports.
I love my life. So the moment the COVID-19 vaccine was available, I went for my jab. I want to stay away from getting too sick or even going to the hospital.
Me too. Nothing is more painful than losing your life or a family member or getting sick when you know the vaccine can stop that.
The COVID-19 vaccine is safe. You only live once, so take the vaccine to enjoy your good life. Get vaccinated now. This message is from the Ministry of Health and Ghana Health Service with support from USAID and partners.
We are on a mission promoting access to quality health and education through the power of our media space. Since 2014, we have made great impact. TV3 mission now drives Ghana's quest to break barriers and provide access to inclusive and quality girls' education, together with women's maternal health services. Our mission to address the needs of the socially excluded has won the admiration of many. Indeed, TV3 Mission gets you the results. Mission is live on TV3 News 360 every Saturday and Sunday. Supported by Star Ghana Foundation, with thanks to Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office.
Good afternoon, it's time for sports here on Midday Live. My name is Kelvin Owusu. Starting with boxing, and former IBF lightweight champion Richard Commey suffered an 11th round technical knockout defeat to Mexico's Jose Ramirez in the WBC Junior World last night.
Oh, and a left hand comes up and lands flush.
After a fiery start to the fight in which the two boxers traded punches, Ramirez dominated in the latter stages. He targeted Commey's body, and in the fateful round, the Mexican scored 2 knockouts, the second of which produced the full 10 count after the Ghanaian took a knee.
When they try to get Ramirez to make a mistake, they try to rip shots in there like you see right here. And Ramirez to the body. He's still on balance. He takes a knee. There was a body shot that came in there. 2 knockdowns scored here.
The loss left Commey without a win in his last 3 restarts, as he fell to 30 wins, 5 losses and 1 draw with 27 knockouts win. His last victory came in February 2021 when he stopped Jackson Martinez in the 6th round. Since then, he has earned a lopsided loss to Vasily Lomachenko, a draw with Pedraza, and now the 2nd stoppage defeat of his career.
Of course, he had all 4 after defeating Ramirez.
Oh, he hurt.
And he gets him.
He hit him with a hook.
A knockdown scored here.
Ramirez had plenty to
So that was an unfortunate one there, but we hope he does better next time. Now to the Black Stars, and they've arrived in Luanda, Angola, ahead of their African Nations Cup qualifier against Angola on match day 4. The Palancas Negras will welcome the Black Stars to the Stadio de 11 November for the return leg at 4 p.m. The hosts will be looking to exact revenge on their visitors following a narrow 1-0 defeat at the Barbara Stadium in Kumasi the last time out. Ghana left it late to beat Angola 1-0 on match day 3 following Antoine Semenyo's winner in injury time. Chris Hughton's side will aim to continue from where they left off and book their place at next year's AFCON in Côte d'Ivoire. Well, now finishing off with some news from the Black Meteors, and the president of the Ghana Football Association, Kurt Edwin Simeon Okrako, has thrown his weight behind the Meteors to defeat Algeria and qualify for the 23 African Nations Cup later in July in Morocco. Kurt caught up with the team during their recovery session at the Barbara Sports Stadium ahead of Tuesday's game.
Once again, thank you, Dalad. Thank you for the leadership. Thank you for all the sacrifices you guys have gone through. I know it's been a very difficult and tight journey. Going to Algeria, traveling immediately after the game, and all the waitings and whatnot that you had to go through in Accra. But warriors and winners don't give up. I have absolute trust in this squad. We'll be here to support the team until we deliver that ticket to Morocco. I'm sure when I said to Andre and Co that I was not traveling with the team, they were surprised. But it was always important that there's equity